Peace and love, Soul Tribe. It's Auntie here. And I am here with the amazing, the fantastic, the gifted, and the talented healer and spiritual practitioner, Sage with Mage. How
Hello,
are you,
everyone.
my dear?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, girl. Thank you for joining the couch.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, listen, today we are talking about the karmic cycle and how it is going to finally look in its beginning and how it's going to end. What are the full cycles of the karmic loop in the karmic cycle?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. Well,
Well, it's a good question because here's why it's a good question. It's a good question because a lot of people struggle with these karmic cycles and they don't necessarily realize that they're in one until all of their life around them starts to fall apart.
that's also true.
So, when thinking about a karmic cycle for me, it's more so, okay, let me have a fundamental understanding of what it is. So, in your humble opinion, what is a karmic cycle?
A karmic cycle, even beyond starting with oneself, is simply when an action gets input and then a consequence comes out, and then another action gets input and another consequence comes out. It's a cycle of consistent action and consistent receiving of whatever that action has caused.
Makes a lot of sense. And here's another thing I recognize too. It feels like it's the same lesson repeated over and over again. So it's not so much input, takeout, or takeout, input. I find that it's the same lessons repeated over and over and over again. It'll be different faces, different places, same lesson.
Same exact lesson. That makes sense. And I think when it comes to that, in terms of having a karmic cycle, a lot of people don't realize that they're living in it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that they're living in it. A lot of people don't realize that they are living in the same decisions that they have continuously done, or that people in past times that are related to them have continuously done.
That's something that I think we don't pay enough attention to, or what does those cycles really look like? So the way I could break that down and understand it would be, number one, almost being in a sleep kind of phase of reality, having your life feel like it's supposed to look this way, be this way, and appear a way. And then something happens that comes to shake, rattle, and roll your life up. And you're going to do one or two things. You're going to become victimized, where why is this happening to me? Or you're going to become the victor and say, okay, what can I learn from these lessons? I realized that when we struggle with the lesson, we struggle with retaining the blessing, which spirals us into another lesson to be learned. And it's almost like you said, input, output. How do we then go from the stage of sleep to the stage of recognizing that there is some kind of real awareness besides the life that we built? How do we get comfortable with the whole thing falling apart? And then number 4, how do we then have the courage to rebuild it all? And to not just simply rebuild it better than what it was.
Well, to start off on the first section, how to recognize you're there, I think one will be brought the opportunity to change the situation that they're in, or to really acknowledge it. But somewhere in yourself, you're going to have to want that.
Okay.
If you don't want it, then the opportunity won't be presented.
Or it would be presented and you would squander it because you don't recognize it as an opportunity.
That's also true. There's plenty of times where people have been given the opportunity to hop out of the continuous cycle that they're in, and they don't even recognize it.
Exactly, because they think in their minds that it will always be a certain way until it's not.
That's true.
So
but then that's when you have to get comfortable with the breaking down.
Well, yeah, dang on it. It's that part though. It's the breaking down part, because it can be relentless. It can sting your ass up. It can make you feel weary and delirious. It can literally shake your foundation where you're questioning every aspect of your reality.
That makes sense.
I'm telling you, have you ever gotten a universal ass whooping?
Yes.
That puts you a feeling of chagrin, absolute chagrin, and you say to yourself, okay, wait a minute. Okay, one damn wave of the disaster come and hit me before I could get up in the water of despair. Another daggone wave come running. You see, and then you realize, wait a minute, are these waves because of me? Are the waves reacting off of me?
Well, a lot of people don't realize the impact that they have in terms of the putting out. So they don't realize, some people don't realize that, perfect example, if I'm sitting there walking around believing that I'll never receive or that I'm continuously deprived of, then they don't realize that they're blocking themselves from gaining.
Exactly.
Or that I'll never be a type of person and I can never be a type of person. Therefore, they don't feel as if they can never change or be greater than who they are.
So then you would say it would go to the very first point of the cycles of the karmic loop, and that would be the unconscious planting unconscious seeds or planting unconsciously.
That's also true.
Okay, could also bring about, number one, a distorted harvest. Number two, a harvest that you must eat from, but you did not want the yield of that fruit.
That's true.
Number three, a harvest that didn't come in with the veracity in which you really desired because you didn't hold that kind of faith.
That's also true.
Girl, don't get me on my pulpit now. Because that's the truth.
I mean, well, if you're, for instance, like the type of person who grew up in a family and that family, for instance, wasn't financially responsible and you never paid attention and grew from those lessons of their financial instability and irresponsibility, then you in your older years or as you continue to mature and you yourself will start making those financially irresponsible mistakes, the overspending, the not caring, and then you're sitting there wondering, oh, well, what happened? And then people before you see well, they also had the same thing. Well, what happened?
Exactly. And that's how you know when something becomes a karmic loop, when it passes down from one generation to the other and it appears in those generations subsequently. So the great grandmother experienced this thing, whatever that is. Then the grandmother experienced it, and then she then taught her children that, and then she then taught her child. And now that child is being exposed to 5 generations of a way of being, a way of thinking that literally put poison in the well, and nobody ever thought about that.
Nobody.
Isn't that crazy though?
No, it's not crazy because it's a common thing.
Oh God.
And it's a cultural thing in certain cases too.
Dysfunction is cultural.
In certain places.
Oh geez.
In spaces. People, like how they say certain people have stereotypes.
Yeah.
And the stereotypes can be passed down.
Exactly. And here's the thing that I never understood. Why not create a stereotype of being amazing?
Or being good.
Or being kind? Or being caring? Or being thoughtful?
Or wise and understanding.
The wise old owl. Exactly. Why can't we create a culture around that? That's what I'm saying. These karmic loops are these stories we plant in our heads. And then we then pass the bullshit on to our children. And then we try to figure out which ways was the right ways. And then we got to unlearn all of the things that we did learn.
And it's harder to unlearn everything that you already put within yourself, especially the older you get.
Exactly. Now, here's where it gets tricky, though, within the karmic loop, is because you will eventually meet your creation. Okay. So you planted these unconscious seeds, either consciously or unconsciously. And now it's time for you to reap the harvest of whatever that looks like. So if you were a person who planted nothing but despair and planted nothing but bereavement and planted nothing but turmoil within your bloodline, you can almost guarantee that your children will not be around you in your old age.
True.
If you are a person who did not know how to appreciate your spouse, didn't know how to love them right, and you planted nothing but doubt, and you planted nothing but bitterness, and nothing but sadness, and nothing but frustration, irritation, and aggravation, you can bet your bottom dollar that at some point during that relationship, there will be questions of its own demise.
That is also true. And I think the thing is a lot of people don't realize it until, because you'll get like a first warning, a second warning, third warning. Some people get warning after warning after warning. And then sometimes they have to lose the tearing down, the building apart, the tearing apart, and just to start over.
Yep.
And that's okay too.
It is. But
as uncomfortable as it is.
Uncomfortable. That's
because let's admit that it's uncomfortable.
But let's just keep it a bean. Is it really comfortable for anyone?
No.
I mean, I think that's what
whether you're poor, whether you got money, whether you're this,
exactly.
whether you're that, it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable because you've lived in a way of thinking all of this time. And now you have to tell yourself, okay, this way of thinking is not working anymore. And I have got to get out of this constant experience because I'm wanting something new in my life, or I'm wanting to experience something different. Did you go through that?
Yeah.
In what way?
I would say that a perfectly good example is when I was in school and I realized that I had carried a lot of the insecurities that I had when I was little into my high school years, and then eventually into college years. So that feeling in needing of, I have to be perfect, the feeling in needing of, I have to succeed, the feeling in needing of, I need a lot of friends and I need external validation to prove exactly who I am and that I'll always be this kind of person.
I see.
And then once the friends leave, the grades drop, the relationship you thought was going to prove to everybody that you were going to succeed and be good in marriage and be good in school and be good in this and et cetera, et cetera. Once that all leaves, you're stuck with yourself.
Come on now. Tell me about it.
I mean, it's true. Yes. You're stuck with yourself, and that's also okay. It's okay to be stuck with yourself. And I think a lot of people, they see that being stuck with themselves or being alone is a bad thing.
Well, it can be if you are a person who's been running from that very experience.
Even then, it's not a bad thing.
It may not be bad.
It's uncomfortable.
Yes, I was about to say, it may not be a bad experience, but if a daggone sure is an uncomfortable experience, which is why so many people run from it, because it shakes your reality. It makes you question things and how things come about. It makes you more resilient.
That's true.
It certainly makes you more independent, for sure. But what it also does is it puts you into part 2 of that karmic cycle. And part 2 talks about, so we've already did the unconscious planting. We already got all of the harvest done. And the harvest, in reaping the harvest thereof, is number 2. Understanding that you must reap what you sow.
That's true. If you're sitting there sowing seeds of doubt, then nothing can flourish because it's been doubted.
Exactly.
If you've been sowing seeds of frustration, then things will come in jagged. If you've been sowing seeds of mischievousness, then I think we already know how that can turn out.
Here today, gone tomorrow.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got to understand, it's not just what you want, it's the soil that you planted it in.
That's true.
So it's not simply, okay, Lord, I want a car. Okay, universal source, I want this experience, and then show up haphazardly for it.
That is also true.
You know what I'm saying? Because we could want to be an astronaut out in outer space, but if we're not properly trained for that.
That's true. Or like you said, you want a car, but you didn't study the driver's test.
Or you want a car and you didn't properly save it all. How about that?
Yep.
You know, at some point we've got to show that what we're trying to manifest is really ours. And the more of that material that we bring in, so if you're wanting a new car, one of the quickest things my grandmothers used to say, if you want that new car, sweetheart, go get the keychain. The car will come to you. See, that's old school. You understand what I'm saying? And it was all about the actual material, really thinking about consciously what it is that you're wanting to plant in your life to reap a better harvest. The harvest is the reward in which you reap because you've planted these seeds.
That's
now,
true.
Here's the thing. When it comes to the wakening up, the sleeping stage of the karmic cycle is a humdinger because you have mastered everything that you could to master. You've gained all of these wisdoms, laurels, and understandings, and life all of a sudden gets a little quiet and things become repetitive. And you just kind of like living life. You just kind of coasting. You're not really learning anything big or gaining anything at all. You're just coasting. And although that is a great way to get your respite and get your ease, I recognize that the tearing away of a false reality is also important.
Mm-hmm. The tearing away of a false reality allows you to really, like how they say that there's, 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
The bargaining section's already over at that point.
Yes.
Because you can't bargain with it anymore. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the accepting of the fact that it's gone.
Yes.
And it gives you a time, because I feel like when something leaves, it's okay to mourn it.
Yes.
It gives you a time period to mourn. And that in the morning, you're understanding that that time period's not around anymore.
Exactly. And
the people,
yes.
the energies, not just the energies, but the attitude and the version of yourself that's not there anymore.
Exactly. And it's okay to mourn over a job, a dog, a marriage that didn't work, a friendship that didn't last, your finances, your health. Acknowledge what is not working and make it a part of your prayers. Because I realize that things do not change when we don't acknowledge it.
No, they don't.
They just don't. It feels like we just kind of push it under the rug in hopes that it go away. But homeboy is always under the bed.
Yeah, it's still sitting there.
Just like, what's up?
It's not growing any bigger.
And bet not. Because who got the time?
Nobody.
That's all I'm saying. So that is a definite part of it when your life starts to fall apart. And it could be through any means. It could be through your finances. It could be through someone being sick. It can be through anything.
It can be through you getting sick.
Okay, come on. And then there is no money.
No.
Okay? There's always a means of getting and capturing someone's attention. But the idea and the goal is to recognize within these stages where you are, so that way you don't freak out and then lose your cool, because that's the stage that I was freaking out at. That was when I was like, oh my God, it's the hell, the world is shaking around me. I'm just not here. What is it? It was one crazy event after the other. And I recognized in that moment that I was going through my dark night of the soul.
I feel like it's always one crazy thing after the other. It's always like, oh wow, it can't get any worse. And then it gets worse. And then you're like, well, then I'm not going to say it can't get any worse. And then it still gets worse. And then you're like, Lord, why is this getting worse at that point? But the thing is everybody has their own stage of character building, because what you think, and then there's another thing. Others might go through something, and then what you think is easy, they are thinking is the worst thing that ever happened to them.
Oh, yeah.
And then what you think is easy, they're thinking, oh my God, that's so horrible. How are you going through that kind of thing?
Exactly.
So you can't even, another thing I think people do is they measure the amount and how hard their life is to somebody else. And that can stunt how you change yourself as well, because you're viewing your personal growth based off of somebody else's.
Exactly. And what you're not recognizing or realizing is that your level of hurt and pain was given to you for you because you were strong enough to carry it.
Exactly.
It would not have been given to me for me because I was not built to carry it. A lot of times we don't recognize that our pain, our joy, our life's work, our excitement, it's all tailor-made. It's not meant for one size fits all. I can guarantee you there is people around this planet that has experienced things that would bring you to your knees. But yet pain is still pain.
That is true.
Exactly.
That is very true.
So one of the things that we also need to discuss is the part where our life is falling apart. We finally gain the understandings. We recognize these karmic cycles that we're going through.
Okay.
And then we get to the point where we're like, okay, look, I got to start doing something. I can't stay like this. It's either I'm going to sink or I'm going to swim. And I'm choosing to swim. How do you get the courage? I mean, I recognize my courage, but how did you get your courage?
I think I gained my courage when I realized it is better to push forward than to stay where you are. And sometimes, even though it outwardly in your brain you might think, oh yeah, this is easier to sit in this spot, it feels better to change because it is so uncomfortable.
Almost like it makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it makes you feel alive to actually push forward into something else. And sometimes the thing is I think what a lot of people don't realize about courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage just means that you have like the fortitude and the vitality to push forward in something that you're
or rise above it.
That too, that you're not used to.
Yes. Because, I've never met a challenge and wasn't afraid of it.
And I think that's normal. Most human beings, when they see something that's unnatural to them or unnatural to their environment or situation, it's usually they're afraid of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or very skeptical of it.
Oh, most certainly. And that's at least. Here's the thing that I realized too. If we just accepted any and everything in our reality, that would be a false way of living as well, because you would never be skeptical. But it comes to a point, at some point, where you recognize that I got to start fighting back. Nobody's going to be putting
and no one's going to do it for you.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
And even if they do it for you, they're not really doing it for you. They're doing it for themselves because of you.
Exactly. And a lot of times too, it's because you needed to hear that word. Sometimes we think a good word is going to come real easy and good, and it don't always come like that.
No.
Sometimes you'll meet a person that'll tell you in the store, and this is shout out to my Nigerian auntie in St. Martin. Yes, give it up for the auntie. What you'll find is a lot of times that it will be the stern voice that's no more crying. Get up. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll come to a word that'll bring you to that degree, and then you'll come to a word that's more gentle if that's what you can receive. What you'll find is that everything is tailor-made to what you need. You don't have to always wonder and worry by adding more fear to a population in a world that's already in fear. You got to do something strong to change that trajectory.
That's true.
What was that thing in your life that you changed the trajectory and was like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this no more?
Well, it kind of goes back to the breaking down part where I was in a relationship and I feel like the people you surround yourself with are a complete reflection of who you are somewhere, some shape, somehow. Mm-hmm. So when I was in that relationship, it was a reflection of how sad and destitute within myself that I was, how desperate I was, how self-loathing I was, how frustrated I was within myself. It had nothing to do with anybody else, completely myself. And once I realized that relationship was showing me exactly who I was inwardly, it gave me, like you said, the courage. It's easier to stay in that situation, but it feels better to leave that situation than to stay within it.
Oh, yeah. I see it.
And then with that situation, it allowed me to push forward in sections. Nothing happens, well, not for everybody. Because some things do happen all at once.
Yes, they can.
But for me in particular, it happened in sections. Whether it was me feeling more comfortable within my skin enough to wear clothes I never thought I was going to wear before, or me to go to places I never thought I was going to go before, or me to do activities by myself I never thought I was going to do before because I always thought I needed somebody around to be there for me, or to jump head in and change schools and to change the degree into something that I could understand. Similar degree, but something that I could understand nonetheless. And to take time within myself to heal and really go into a place of self-reflection and atonement.
Yes.
A lot of people think atonement is self-punishment, and that's not true. Atonement is when you give yourself space to forgive yourself and change for yourself or for others if you have to atone for what you did that was wrong. But the biggest sin is actually done by ourselves to ourselves.
You know, I recognize that. I think the greatest sin that I ever did to myself was with myself when I told myself that I wasn't going to be able to make it on my own. Or when I told myself that I needed all of this extra support to run my store. Or when I told myself that closing the storefront was the necessary thing to do, but fought it with tooth and nail.
But it was the hard thing to do, but it seemed easier to stay there. But at the same time, it's better to have a change of scenery.
Oh, yes.
A much better change of scenery.
And I think it was more so not just the change of scenery, it's the change of energy.
That too.
Because, you know, a lot of times we change with the energy around us. If you're in a very negative environment, in a negative space mentally, it's going to be very hard for you to see the silver lining. But if something in you is ready to stand up and is determined not to live a certain way anymore, that is you wakening up. And it feels so refreshing and so empowering. All of a sudden, you got a little bit more energy than you had before. I realized that when I grew into this next phase where my businesses are flourishing and they are thriving and they are growing into amazing experiences. And I recognize that in my Soul Tribe community, how we're growing and evolving and visiting with one another. Hasn't it?
It has grown.
Hasn't it? And the people are
kind. But it doesn't happen all at once.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
I mean, we are 7 years into our brick and mortar store being around.
That's true.
And our online presence being built. We are now in our first full year of Soul Tribe Media being around. Turns a full year old September 2026. I mean, wow.
And that's the journey. And I think a lot of people's biggest problem, they want to jump from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Actually, no, from point A to point Z. They want to get to the end.
To the end.
And the thing is I think people don't realize is at the end, there's nothing.
Whew. Yes.
And to be at the end is when it's time to leave.
Yes. Yes, because there should always be something new on the horizon.
There should be a B, a C, a D, F, and G, and everything else in between.
Because guess what? You would live an entire lifetime and remember none of it.
Remember none of it.
That's so crazy. Do you know how many young people do not remember their childhood?
A lot of people don't remember being kids.
And I'm just sitting here like, what in the world? How do you not remember your childhood? I mean, I remember mine, and it wasn't always the glorious thing, but I remember.
I remember mine, but I do remember a lot of people my age don't remember their childhood. And if they do, they only remember the traumatic parts of it.
Jeez, Louise. You know, here's the thing I realized too, is that it's something about being in a place where you're okay with being yourself. You're okay with changing your life. That's where the courage comes from.
That's where the courage comes from.
That's where the courage comes from. That you're willing to say, okay, listen, I guess if I got to be an outlier, I'm an outlier. You understand what I'm saying?
And the thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes with the change, because everything changes, you can change and then the people around you, they may not enjoy the fact that you've changed, and that's okay that they don't enjoy that.
Yes.
It's okay to understand that when you change for yourself, there's going to be many things that leave.
Oh, so you got to say that one more time for the people in the back. It's okay
that when you change, you got to realize there's going to be many things that leave, whether it's people, whether it's your habits. And like I said before, it's the version of yourself that leaves. And it's that healing process. Actually, beyond that, it's not even just the healing process. It's the accepting process. It's a lot of different things that go all together with understanding that, because you're not gonna, some people do keep the same friends that they have for a long time and some people don't, but within yourself and within them, what's evolving at the same time to where you can continuously keep being around the same people.
And in the same way, sometimes people can grow, but they can grow in different directions.
Yep. And some people grow closer together. Some people grow farther apart. And at the same time, it's all okay.
Exactly. That's the thing. Give yourself permission to see that it's all okay. This is simply part of your story. Mm-hmm. It's simply part of your journey. And when we don't take it so seriously, we won't find ourselves so disappointed.
That's true. But it's okay to be disappointed. It's not okay to sit in
I was about to say, but we don't want to stay there.
It's not okay to
because disappointment is a natural order of things.
It's a natural feeling, and it's okay to accept the fact that you feel that way. It's just not good to stay in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because when you stay in disappointment, there's no hope.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing.
Because disappointment turns into despair.
Yes, that's something you never want to do. You never want to be in a space where you're at a space of despair, because it's very hard to come back from that.
Very hard. Some people do it.
Oh, yeah, they do, but they got to claw their way out. Please understand it.
That's true.
Yes, indeed. Well, listen, Sage with Mage, this is such a special treat, girl. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
You got to come back.
Absolutely.
Or have me on your show. Yes. Tell the people about your show.
So I have a podcast on Spotify called Mage's Midnight Chats, where we will be discussing we will be discussing those late night thoughts that stick around at night. It's a very peaceful, very calming podcast. And I also have a YouTube channel called Sage With Mage on, I said YouTube. It's also on Instagram and TikTok as well. And that is also a place for calming, peaceful, understanding little bites and pieces of wisdom or whatever comes to me at the time.
Listen, I love it, and I love it for us, y'all. Remember, always check us out on Beads and Potions at OK Universe. I hear you. And always check us out at soultribe.media, where we make conscious-led content because we understand the importance of living this spiritual life and living it practically. Hope this has filled your cups, everybody. Peace and love, y'all. Okay. Sage with me.
That turned out really well.
Hey, Soul Tribe. Welcome to Soul Tribe Media, where ancestral wisdom meets modern storytelling, and every piece of content was created with you in mind. Join us monthly for a day in the life with Auntie, where she opens up the doors and brings you along for the highs and the lows and real moments of her spiritual journey. Every week, the OK Universe I Hear You blog meets you right where you are. Real talk, honest, real, and rooted. Read it and reflect on it. Subscribe to the Soul Tribe podcast, dropping every week. Real conversations about spirituality, healing, purpose, and unfiltered work of becoming your highest self. Sign up for B&P Chronicles, our monthly newsletter that goes deeper than the feed ever could. This is where the real wisdom lives. Don't miss it. Pull up every week on TikTok for Tea Time with Auntie. Grab your cup, get comfortable, and get ready, because we are getting into it. Every Sunday, meet Auntie on YouTube for Soul Tribe Sunday, fresh off the trail, straight from the heart, no script, no filter, just the word your soul needs for the week. Tune in, you don't want to miss it. Soul Tribe Media exists because your spiritual growth deserves more than a post. It deserves a community, a consistent voice, and a content that actually shows up for you every single week. Everything you need to grow, heal, and show up fully is already waiting for you, beloved. You found your people. Now come home. soultribe.media.